And a TGIF, everyone. Welcome to the First Call Podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk. We're representing First Bet and Express Bet. This is our podcast each and every week where we handicap weekend stakes races. We've got closing day at Keeneland on Friday, opening day at Churchill on Saturday, great stakes in Jeff's backyard at Santa Anita. So a lot to get to on this program, Jeff. But as we check the watch, we are 7 days, the calendar or the watch. We're close enough that the watch will probably tell us. We're 7 days from the Kentucky Oaks. We're 8 days from Kentucky Derby 150. So there's a lot to discuss here just in the greater Louisville area before we even talk about around the country.
And one day before the draw. I like when they give us a week to handicap. Churchill Downs on Derby Day, you need a week if you really want to cover all the bases, you know. But again, we always say this every year. It's nervous time for those with contenders. They'll enter tomorrow, and then they got a week to sweat it out. And that dreaded morning phone call. Like I say, I always tell my trainer, if nothing bad has happened, don't call me, okay? You have to call me to tell me my horse is lame. Okay, you can do that, but I don't want to hear from you unless there's something bad. So that way, if I don't get a phone call, I'm in good shape. So, and I'm sure a lot of trainers, owners feel that way. But we'll draw tomorrow. Interesting to see. And then this is a critical draw for at least one horse. We know Fierceness. I'm sure the connections are going to want an outside draw. We don't want him down on the inside taking dirt. We've seen that act before, twice. And if he gets a good spot, then he'll have no excuses, especially the way he's been breezing up to the race.
Yeah, and for our listeners who don't know, if you go back a ways, Jeff knows what he's talking about being about an owner for the Kentucky Derby. He was part of the ownership group that owned 1997 runner-up Captain Bodgett, lost a close photo that day. And actually, Jeff, if this means anything to you, 27 years later, I was on the rail at Churchill Downs at the gap where they come out from the paddock. So I was watching behind the field. When they hit the wire, I actually thought Captain Bodgett won from where I was at. So for about 30 seconds in my life, I thought you were the Kentucky Derby winner. Anybody looking dead on knows that Silver Charm got the victory. But from my vantage point, before they posted the numbers on the tote board, I thought that Captain Bodgett was the Derby winner.
Well, I actually thought we were going to win it at the 16th pole. So there was about 1 second there where I said to myself, I won the Kentucky Derby. And then Silver Charm came back. And, ever since then, I've hated Silver Charm. Although I did see a picture of him on his 30th birthday. And I finally, after 27 years, forgave him.
I'm glad you come to peace with that.
Yeah, I did. I actually came to peace with it. But but it's tough then. And that was our first Derby. And 3 years later, we had the deputy who did not run well at all. And actually never ran again because he was injured in that race. But it is a thrill of a lifetime. And there are owners who've had horses in this year's Derby that have experienced before. But for the first time, Derby owner, I can't imagine what they're thinking. It's just and the thing about it is, and it happened with me, leading up to the Kentucky Derby, if you are an owner, you've won it in your mind about 100 times. So even if you don't win it, the anticipation allows you to dream, and that's part of the process, part of the enjoyment of having a horse in the race.
A couple of the owners for this year's Derby horses who have had, maybe a little bit more attention or decisions to make, the connections of Endlessly, the horse who from Southern California was so good on the turf as a 2-year-old, outstanding on the synthetic this year, winning the El Camino Real Derby and the Jeff Ruby. He did not work very well at all his last couple works at Churchill Downs, trying to get acclimated to the dirt for Michael McCarthy. He was on the track this morning, and I watched the live show from Churchill Downs, Joe Kristofek and Rosie Napravnik hosting, and I thought Endlessly worked pretty good this morning. This was by far the best he has looked. Of his 3 works at Churchill Downs, I would say it was meh, bad, and now today, pretty good. So I don't know if he's coming around to the dirt, but they've got to be encouraged. And if you thought maybe they were pulling out of the Kentucky Derby with Endlessly because he's not liking the track, I think today's workout puts him on the go list for sure. Whether or not you want to bet him or not is another story, but I thought he handled it today far better than he had in previous mornings.
Of course, the track today looked like it was pretty fast. So maybe, he grabbed it a little better than maybe over a deeper dirt. I know he didn't work well here at Santa Anita, but the morning dirt track, the main track here is really deep. So, and sometimes maybe he's just not a great workhorse, but to put him in company this morning, he went well. And if you're this close to the Kentucky Derby, it's an awful strong pull. I'm telling
Yeah,
you,
sure.
to decide to go, especially when you're coming off a series of really good races, a couple of
Yeah.
wins, and I could see them taking a flyer. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And the other owner we're talking about, the owner of Fierceness, Mike Rapoli, of course, he's had some bittersweet times here at Churchill Downs, right? Forte scratched the morning of the race last year. He had Uncle Mo scratched back a decade or so ago as the favorite for the Kentucky Derby. He's got the favorite this year. I don't understand the discussion where people are talking about it could be he or Sierra Leone for the favorite. Fierceness is going to be the favorite for the Kentucky Derby. It's the one thing I know for sure. I don't know if he wins the race, but I positively in my mind he's going to be the favorite for the Kentucky Derby over Sierra Leone. He worked this morning, Fierceness, and Jeff, I thought he looked outstanding. Again, we don't go gushing over a workout for a horse who doesn't look like they fit on paper, right? You've got to talk about contenders and what you know as a handicapper and your fundamentals, and now use these workouts as kind of tiebreakers and yes or no decisions when you're on a cliff about a horse. But he worked this morning. We don't have the video of it just yet, but you can catch it online. 12-4 for the first quarter, 24-4 to the second, 36-4 through three quarters. The final time for the workout was 48-4, so he came home the last eighth of a mile on 12 flat, but he galloped out faster than he worked, Jeff. He galloped out 11-4, another furlong to 1:03. Then he galloped out another 12 eighth of a mile to 1:12-3, 6 furlong gallop out time, and he galloped out 7 furlongs in 1:26. I like to say he went for breakfast this morning at Churchill Downs because the track kitchen is at the end of the backstretch right before they go into the far turn. He galloped out to the track kitchen, which is just a phenomenal work. Look, Fierceness may get sideswiped at the start. His head gets lost and he runs a terrible race in the Kentucky Derby. Maybe that happens. That's the scenario everybody trying to beat him is thinking of. But if you watched him work this morning, you are confident that he's coming up to the race in his best form. Whether or not it translates to a victory in the traffic and everything like that, he is peaked for this race.
He is the best horse in the race, not only based on his last win, but his Breeders' Cup win was amazing as well, and a very productive race. Again, he can only beat himself. Mm-hmm. All due respect to Sierra Leone, who I think is a terrific horse,
right?
And will be running on late. But if barring any problems at the start, if he breaks well, doesn't get sideswiped, as you pointed out, which is a good way of putting it, because that's kind of what happened to him in his loss in Florida. I think he's really good. And, you know, I tell you what, if he were to win the Kentucky Derby, and based on the fact that the Belmont is not a mile and a half this year, a mile and a quarter, he would have a viable chance to win the Triple Crown. I mean, Muth will be the new shooter, but he beat Muth pretty easily out here. So, yeah, I mean, all eyes, at least my eyes, will be on him at the break. And then at the opening furlong, if he gets out smoothly and gets whatever position he wants to be in, man, he's going to be hard to beat.
Jeff and I talked a lot about the post positions, some workout reviews in Tuesday's podcast. Go back and check that out on our It's Official podcast. If you're watching on Twitter, scroll back and find that in the timeline from Tuesday, or search out the It's Official podcast on YouTube, and you'll be able to go back to Tuesday's podcast. We'll have another one of those this coming Tuesday where we review the final weekend workouts here. We'll know the post positions by then. We'll have a lot of Kentucky Derby preview in that one. Just another couple quick notes. I thought some Oaks fillies this morning just jumped off the racetrack. Ways and Means for Chad Brown looks phenomenal. Torpedo Anna, and also Just FYI for Bill Mott. She's only got the one start this year. He had to kind of shoehorn that race in the Ashland in, but she could not look better. Will she come apart in a mile and an eighth at the end of the race? Maybe, with only one race since last year's Breeders' Cup. But if you're going to trust any conditioner in America who's tightening the girth on a horse, it's Bill Mott. And he's got her as good as he can have her right now on April 26th going towards the Kentucky Oaks. So phenomenal edition of the Kentucky Oaks coming up. I thought it was Tarifa and everybody else about 4 weeks ago, and now I'm kind of swinging around. Tarifa looks like, the way she's training, maybe the fourth best filly in the Oaks. It's going to be a very, very good race. Looking forward to that one on Friday. They're going to draw everything at Churchill Downs tomorrow on Saturday for Oaks Day and Derby Day. Draw for the undercards for both Friday and Saturday will be conducted in the morning and afternoon at Churchill. Then a special primetime ceremony for the Oaks and Derby draws between races 3 and 4 on Saturday night at Churchill Downs. Evening card at Churchill for their opening night between races 3 and 4 in the 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock hour. We will have the draw for the Kentucky Derby and Oaks. So then past performances by your favorite provider will be put together later Saturday night. Should be able to get them before you turn on Saturday Night Live on Saturday night. You should be able to have the Oaks and Derby PPs probably ready to go. Let's get handicapping here. We've got 8 races to take a look at between today, Friday, closing day at Keeneland, and also the Saturday schedule for the benefit of those of you on our audio podcast channels. Here are the 8 races Jeff and I will handicap over the next 30 minutes or so. The Bewitched Stakes from Keeneland. We've got a big scratch in there to tell you about in just a moment. At Aqueduct on Saturday, we'll talk about the Woodhaven on turf. At Oaklawn, we've got 2, the Bachelor Stakes and the Dig a Diamond. Churchill Downs opening night card features the Roxalana overnight stakes. At Golden Gate Fields, biggest race of the year in the final season at Golden Gate Fields. It's the last San Francisco Mile. Huge field in that one for the Express Bet race of the week. And at Santa Anita, 2 stakes races there. Kona Gold and Royal Heroine represented in there for the fillies and mares on the turf, and the Royal Heroine appropriately enough, and the sprinters on the main track for the great sprinter Kona Gold. Tournament players, the main event this weekend is Saturday at Santa Anita, the $500 Santa Anita Challenge. We've also got some $40 feeder tournaments across the way at Keeneland, Churchill, and Santa Anita, 2 bigger tournaments later in the season. For more, go to expressbet.com/tournaments and check out the schedule and how to get registered to play in those. All right, Jeff Siegel, let's go to Keeneland on Friday, where it is closing day. I'm feeling good coming off a pick-6 victory on Thursday at Keeneland. Didn't pay as much as I was hoping that the pick-6 would pay when you take down a pick-6, but a decent score. And I guess we reviewed it with about 5,000 of my closest Keeneland friends on Thursday night into Friday, and I think some people listened. A lot of folks were cashing that pick-6 on Friday, so happy for that, or on Thursday, happy for that. But let's close up on Friday with a big day. It is the featured Bewitched Stakes, and when the scratches came out here, Queen's Command came out, War Like Goddess came out, and everything changed.
Yeah, that was my exacta, by the way. I liked War Like Goddess under the assumption that she was ready to run. I didn't think that they were going to run her if she wasn't. Turns out maybe Bill Ma thought maybe he didn't have her ready at age 7. If you're going to run a mare 7 years of age, you might as well send them fit. You know what I'm saying? So otherwise, you can send her home and breed her. But I'm glad that she's still running. Maybe not today, but hopefully she's okay, and then we can enjoy her again throughout the year. It'd be kind of neat for her to win. This would have been what, her 4th?
Yeah, she'd won the Bewitched 3 years in a row, going for the 4
that would have been quite a record. Yeah. That was worth going after. Maybe she just didn't come around. And looking at her work tab, I don't know how she could have. Anyway, she's out. And I thought that the Brian Lynch mare from California, I thought she ran pretty well here, but she's out. So that left me with Lovely Princess, number 5 on the program. I like the 2 out of 3 lifetime at Keeneland. I like horses that have proven not only once, but more than once, able to win on this course. Her form in the fairgrounds earlier this year was solid, and numbers are solid, and she's proven she can go a mile and a half. I mean, she did so when she was a winner of an allowance. When she was second in the Kirtana at Churchill last year. That was a Churchill, not Keeneland, but she did run well at Keeneland. I'll get it right. She actually won at Keeneland too, so that was good. The Kirtana was a mile and a half. It was at Churchill, but it showed me that she could run this far. So anyway, boils right down to it. She's got a nice second flag type of style. She kind of grinds it out. And first or second, 8 out of 15, so she's pretty reliable. I'll go with number 5, Lovely Princess. Originally, she was 8-1 in the morning line. I don't know what she's going to be now with the heavy favorite scratch. She'll be one of the favorites for sure. But I like Lovely Princess.
Vergara probably goes favorite in here, and she's a filly who was only 5-2 in the Dowager. She's lone speed now, so Flavian Pratt's going to try to nurse the lead here and go wire to wire with Vergara. See how far she can go. She's by Noble Mission. Those offspring tend to run really well here over the turf at Keeneland. Her effort in the Dowager was just okay. It was a tougher field than this. Ramon and Mia won that day, but kind of a spotty run from her in there. We'll see if she can get the 1.5 with Vergara. That's really the question. She's been more, I think, better at shorter distances. And, it's not the right style to win at 1.5 on the lead at Keeneland. It's statistically rare that we see it. So Vergara's going to try to take him wire to wire. And if you like that lone speed, dangerous indeed angle, she's going to fit that bill. It's just a matter if she can sustain it.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at her and I just thought maybe she might be vulnerable in the final furlong. But if she gets loose in the lead and they don't look at her, I mean, you picked a 35-1 shot a couple of days ago. That lead going 1.5 miles.
Don't remind me.
But it shows you that lone speed going 1.5 miles. He didn't win, but he ran a winning race. It can be done. But I mean, Vergara, we have not seen her since November. And she doesn't have a history of running well fresh. I'm going to hopefully be able to beat her with Lovely Princess.
All right, let's see if we can get a winner here at Keeneland on closing day. I want to remind you there's a carryover in the Super High Five in the last race at Keeneland and it has to go today because it is closing day. So $27,000 in the race 10 carryover for the Super High Five if you're betting Keeneland today. Back to our schedule. It's turned to Saturday on your programs. It's April 27th races here now from the rest of the way. The Woodhaven Stakes on Saturday at Aqueduct is the feature race, goes as the 6th on the card. These are 3-year-old turf horses. And the NYRA set gears them up for that 3-year-old grass season. This is kind of the beginning run towards races like the Belmont Invitational, the Saratoga Oaks, those kind of good 3-year-old turf races. We'll see if any of these can develop throughout the course of the season and be eligible for some of those graded stakes and even grade 1 stakes. But this is just a listed race at $125,000 in here. How did you see it shaking out, Jeff?
I was really impressed with Good Lord Laurie's maiden win at Saratoga last year. He was really kind of green. He didn't really level off, but he still won, and he did it with authority. I said, okay, here's a colt that could develop into a nice colt, but then he disappeared. He comes back in a stakes going a mile off the layoff. He goes from 5.5 last August to a mile on grass in Stakes Company. I have to assume that he's doing really well. I don't think they would ask this colt to do this if they didn't think he was good and be ready, and gets Pratt, which I like, and hard spun out of a Smart Strike mare, should have no trouble. In fact, I think he'll like a distance to ground more than sprinting. The work tab down in Florida, Palm Beach Downs, looks very healthy. I do have some respect for Carson's run. I was impressed with his Canadian races, so much so that I used him in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and he just never really got into it. He was wide, and he just was outfooted. He's the favorite at 9-5. I think Good Lord Laurie is just as good, if not better. So at 9-2, I'll be happy with that. I'll go with Good Lord Laurie at 9-2 and the Woodhaven at Aqueduct.
I think it's interesting that Pratt and Irad, they leave Keeneland on Friday. They could have easily just went to Churchill, stayed there Derby week. They're going back to New York to ride for the weekend. I think that's significant. You get Pratt aboard, your runner in there, a Good Lord Laurie. So that's the 6th, the Woodhaven Stakes at Aqueduct on Saturday. Let's change gears now to Oaklawn Park, where they've got a pair of stakes races and a meet that runs through Kentucky Derby Day. So another week of racing left on the season in Hot Springs, which began way back the beginning of December. It's the $200,000 Bachelor Stakes. And there's some horses in here that have been battling throughout the entire meet at Oaklawn, start to finish. Valentine Candy ran right opening week in the Advent Stakes, ran off 3 stakes wins at the meet, then traveled the Turfway last time, and now back to Oaklawn for really the meet closer for the 3-year-old sprint division. This has been a really consistent sort. Valentine Candy loves the track by Justify. Steve Asmussen, you could just see Valentine Candy showing up in the Chick Lang on Preakness weekend, going 6 furlongs. Steve's always got somebody for a race like that. Seems to be a good kind of fit. This horse likes to run. Valentine Candy just, now getting to the 9th career start, no breaks in the tab, no breaks in the schedule. I like this horse, Valentine Candy. Who do you like here in the Bachelor Stakes?
Hard to ignore 3 for 3 lifetime at Oaklawn. He's the one to beat. If he shows up with his A game, he's probably going to be deserving of a price that is shorter than the morning line at 5-2. So if I'm playing on the rolling exotic, he's got to be on the ticket. I tried to beat him with a little bit better price, number 2, Frost Free, who actually earned an 89 buyer 2 races back when he ran away and hid. That was a very good race. He's a quicker horse than Valentine Candy, but Valentine Candy did handle him, back in December on a couple of races. Frost Free was good enough in that two races back for me to try him in his next start going a mile. And they took the blinkers off. They thought, oh, let's rate him. Let's take all his speed away. Let's take his best weapon away. He went in 47 and 3, went 12 and 2, and then they ran all over him, So at least the trainer figures that's not what's going to work. So let's back him up, put the blinkers on, and let him roll.
Let him roll, yeah.
He wants to do. And if he can get loose early, which he might carry his speed all the way. So I'm going to try Frost Free to upset Valentine Candy, recognizing that Valentine Candy is obviously the one to beat and could easily win.
With the blinkers, 2 starts to go, here is Frost Free, the race that caught Jeff's eye.
Well behind as they hit the quarter pole. Risk It has come under a hard ride. Frost Free, let's see if he can keep going. He went the half in 45 and 2, and he's still clear out here. Frost Free with a furlong to go, turning on the afterburners. He's now 5 ahead as they come to the 16th pole. Frost Free 3-4 ahead now and finishing strong. And Frost Free and Ramon Vasquez win the feature on the Friday card at Oaklawn.
So it's Frost Free, Jeff's top pick in the Bachelor Stakes race number 8, a race that also includes Time for Truth dropping out of the Arkansas Derby. This one showed promise for Ron Moquette, so a really nice race here for $200,000 in race 8. To the 10th we go, $200,000 the purse at Oaklawn on Saturday for that one as well. It's the Dig a Diamond Stakes. We're mining for gold and diamonds here, Jeff. A 1 mile at Oaklawn. Of course, we'll start and finish at the 16th pole finish line. Some names we're familiar with in here. Hoosier Philly, she was so brilliant earlier career, never developed really into a top-class distaff division runner. She tries the mile distance here. Olivia Twist has had a cup of coffee and some big stakes over the years and has run some good races for Todd Fincher out of New Mexico. A good-looking group in here. Brad Cox has Crypto Mo as well. I know a horse that you've got your eye on, new to the Cox barn.
I went with Crypto Mo here. She was kind of given a race at Evangeline. I don't know if they say, when I say given one, I mean, she's supposed to win, but she didn't. But she ran second. Maybe a race she needed. I remember her form last year at Prairie Meadows. She looked like really a top filly. And after the Iowa Oaks, races, by the way, that earned really strong buyer numbers. She wasn't just winning because nobody else could run. She was winning because she was running fast. And with that prep behind her now, Brad Cox, second off the left, very strong numbers with that. And then I looked at Hoosier Philly. I don't completely do not understand the training pattern on this. He's got 4 really bad races in a row. She's run on a wet track. She's run on sprinting. She's run routing. She's run at Charlestown. She's now taking blinkers off. They breezed her on the grass the other day. I mean, this poor filly has no idea what she's supposed to do. And I know one thing, every time I try to use her or play her, she ends up nowhere. She did have a win at Ellis Park when they literally gifted her the race. I mean,
that was a lone speed day. Yeah,
48 and 4, and nobody went with her, and she won a race that on paper looks pretty good, but really was completely flattering. So if Hoosier Philly is a 2-1 favorite, I know I have to play the race.
Right.
I have
They're
to.
just begging you. They're drawing you in at that point. Right.
Drawing me in. And Crypto Mo, at least I know she has back form that is good enough to win. And in fact, her numbers are better than Hoosier Philly. So I'm going to go at 5-2 with Crypto Mo, and hopefully that she can step forward off a race that she probably needed in the comeback, and hopefully she's set for her best today.
The aforementioned Iowa Oaks, where she was at her best pre-moving to the Brad Cox barn. Here's a look at that one with Bobby Newman on the mic.
48 and 2 was the opening half mile for Crypto Mo, and she's still the boss. Crypto Mo, a quarter mile from the money, and she's the leader at the top of the stretch. Imanra's working hard in behind her. Stellar Lady all out. Love Tank on the outside, and Crypto Mo's the one to catch. Imanra may be the only one with a chance to get her. Crypto Mo comes to mid-stretch. Cindy Murphy's got a milestone on her mind. She won the first ever race at Prairie Meadows, and win 2000 is in the Grade 3 Iowa Oaks.
Good time there. Cindy Doll, I remember following her and covering her at Remington Park in the years when I was there in the early 90s, one of the top female jockeys of all time. So a big historic win there. But Crypto Mo back at Oaklawn. She'll be handled by Axel Concepcion coming in to ride after riding at Keeneland this meet and Turfway for Brad Cox. So he gets the road trip and the mount there. I'm taking Olivia Twisto in this stakes race at Oaklawn in race number 10, the Dig a Diamond. She makes one of those form cycle moves that I just can't say no to. Second off the layoff and sprint the route all at the same time. I just love when an old school trainer brings a horse back off a layoff in a sprint race shorter than their best and then goes for the route the second time. It's a move in like 1992 that you wouldn't even thought twice about. That's what everybody does. You come off a layoff, you run shorter. Like Easy Goer came back in the Swale Stakes, right? I mean, like that's the way that they did it in the day, you know, but it's not done that often anymore because nobody wants to get beat going short and give up a race and take the starch out of their horse. They're afraid, you know, that they're only going to get so many races out of them and they don't want to waste one. Fincher, I think, has Olivia Twist set up nicely, again, with that second off the layoff sprint the route. You don't see it that often in the form cycle anymore, Jeff, but it was tried and true for like 100 years until the last 10.
Yeah, sounds like my 2 sprints and a stretch out play.
Yeah.
Same theory, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with mostly with maidens on that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get a maiden, runs once, one side stretches out. That's what happens.
Then it's go time. Time. We go next to Churchill Downs for Saturday's opening night card. Again, closing day on the Kentucky circuit today at Keeneland. Then things shift on Saturday to Churchill Downs. Schedule note, they'll run Saturday. Then they'll be off Sunday. I believe the first day of Racing Derby Week then will be Tuesday all the way through Kentucky Derby Day. And then, of course, they take off the day after the Kentucky Derby to clean the place up. So one of the great things of all time, I'll get off the track just a minute. One of the great things in Kentucky Derby behind the scenes that nobody ever sees is how they clean the track from Oaks Day to Derby Day.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But if you've ever been there, you know the smell of gasoline because every kid in Louisville is walking around with a leaf blower and they're going like crazy trying to clean the place. So as you leave after covering the Kentucky Oaks and it's like 9:00 at night, it's just the smell of gasoline in the air and leaf blowers everywhere, cleaning trash up to get the grounds pristine for Derby Day. One of the great turnarounds from a crowd of like 120,000 to a crowd of 150, 160,000 in 2 days. But Saturday at Churchill Downs, they will be clean, pristine, and ready to go in that brand new paddock being unleashed. It looks like a Roman Coliseum where the horses are going to be saddled. Some really cool features to that new paddock too. If you haven't seen, you can actually sit behind the horses in the paddock with one-way glass. You're sitting there in a dining room watching the horses being saddled right in front of you. The horse can't see you. It's one-way glass. I mean, just phenomenal. I think it's going to be a great experience for the fans who can afford to be in that area. On most race days, it'll probably be affordable enough. On Kentucky Derby Day, you better bring your inheritance to get a ticket to be sitting in those kind of areas. But Jeff, maybe if you knock down the super high five on the Roxalana Stakes or on the card Saturday night at Churchill, you can get an upgrade in our Derby tickets. Who do you like here in the 9th race going 6 furlongs on opening night?
This was a tough race. I looked at all of them here and I kept moving around and trying to find a horse that I liked in here, and lots of question marks. I ended up with Dazzling Blue. She hasn't been out since last October. She had a really good early part of her career, went kind of stale. She was rested. Another Brad Cox comebacker, 33% or something like that with the layoff runner. So I know that she's probably cranked up and ready to run. Again, she won her first 3 starts last year, including her debut at Churchill with a good filly. She'd won her first 3, then was second behind Maple Leaf Mill. That was a good race as well.
Sure.
Buyer numbers are hot. Now she's away. I obviously haven't seen any of her videos of any of her workouts. She hasn't worked particularly fast, but that's okay with Brad. He can get him ready. He doesn't have to burn him up. And regular riders aboard. I think if she comes back to her best race, she's as good as any and better than most. 3-1 is, okay price, not great, but good enough. So I ended up with Dazzling Blue, hoping that she returns as well as she was about this time last year.
With the coincidental mojo, I think I put Last Leaf into the winner's circle, talking about all the leaf blowers at Churchill Downs. So Last Leaf's the horse who's run well at Churchill, but 7/8 of a mile more her distance, I think, than the 3/4 that she's going to get on Saturday night. So Jeff's going in that race with his top choice in there being Dazzling Blue for Brad Cox in race number 9. Okay, let's go to the San Francisco Mile race I put a lot of time into earlier this week. It's the Express Bet race of the week, and it'll be the final edition of the San Francisco Mile, run at Golden Gate Fields. A mile on the turf here. Purse is $175,000. Last year's winner was Balnikov, and he took all of the stretch to get there in a wild photo finish.
At the top of the lane, and these two have pulled 3. Clearville Bellator. Tesoro's dropping out. Dicey Mochara trying to pick it up. He's not getting it done right now, and Balnikov trying to kick it in on the far outside. He's finding a good stride now. He's got 2 lengths to gain. It's Flavius. El Bellator's running huge, and here comes Balnikov and Rio King from the back. They're together. Balnikov inside with the head in front. Rio King running the race of his life. I think it was Balnikov, but it was tight. Balnikov and Rio King in a photo and
it was indeed Balnikov, and he hasn't won since, Jeff. So is this veteran, has he seen, his best runs? He's lost 7 in a row since then. D'Amato sends him back north, gets Giovanni Franco to ride this time. What do you make of Balnikov in the title defense in here? Is he as good as he once was?
Well, he was better last year leading up to that win than he is this year, at least on form. I wonder if he's the same horse or not. I don't know. He was non-threatening 6th in the Hernandez. That was sprinting. I'll give him credit. I'll give him an excuse for that. Never really picked up his feet in the Thunder Road.
No.
He really should have been competitive in that race. So I don't know where he's at. Okay, mm-hmm. I know that as a deep closer, that's a tough way to win at Golden Gate Fields. Now he did win it last year. I'll give him credit for that. Mm-hmm. But they went very. I won't say they went blazingly fast, but 48-1 on that grass course is like 47-1 anywhere else. So he had pace to run at. I tried to beat him just because I didn't think I wanted to take a 3-1 in the race.
Right.
That's the only thing that I figured out. And if he comes from way out of the clouds, and okay, then he beats me. Mm-hmm. I really had a hard time with this one, Jeremy. I got to admit, I could see a number of possibilities. I could, if I picked a name out of a hat and said, make a case for him, I could do it. So I ended up going with Clovis Connection just because he might be the controlling speed. Mm-hmm. I tried him down the hill in the Sensational Star. Johnny Padres came back to win. He ran well that day, got worn down late. Johnny Padres, he's turning into a hill freak. He really can blast home. And I thought Clovis Connection in that racing. I don't think he got tired. He just got outfooted in the last, 5-2 for the last 16th of a mile. What the heck,
Yeah.
So now, and I love this race at Fresno. I know that's Fresno in the dirt, but he got hooked that day as well and still won. He's one of these horses that he can go fast and still give you another move, and in a race that I don't think is going to be fast early. There are horses in here that like to lay fairly close, but they're not blasting off type speed. I think if they allow Clovis Connection to get over and make the running, I think he could take this field a very long way. And here's a 12-1 shot. That's the appeal here, is trying to get a price home. And have a horse that's loose in the lead. And I was there up north when he ran a second in his only start on the grass at Golden Gate Fields. He ran a great race that day as well, with worn down on the Silky Sullivan. And he's a much better horse now than. I think Clovis Connection's got a chance to at least give you a thrill. And he's by Vronsky. They're a good turf miler. So let me try a 12-1, number 10, Clovis Connection. Now, you said you did work on this race. You may have done more work than I have. In fact, I'm pretty sure you did. So I'd like to see what you came up with.
I came out of the same race. I think the Sensational Star is going to be important in here. I think Coalinga Road's going to run a big one, the Cowbred. Beaten a length and 3/4 in that particular race, closed well. And it's that same thing we just talked about 10 minutes ago. Second off the layoff, sprint the route. They gave this one, who's a clear miler, mile and a 16th, mile and an 8th horse, one going long in the Turf Classic on Cal Cup Day in January. Sprint race, come back. It was a good one. And then look at the workout since then. We're 4 46-4 bullet on the dirt April 13th. Since then, I think Carla Gaines got this one right. Second off the layoff, sprint the route, and a big bullet workout coming into it. And I like when you bring a shipper in who's got class from another circuit, but you find a top local pilot who knows the course better than bringing an out-of-town rider. I like the fact that they go to Espinoza here, who's having a phenomenal meet at Golden Gate. So I think there's a lot to like here on the Calbred. So I think Coalinga Road's got a shot in here. And hopefully we get a fair price there. Honestly, when I handicapped this, and I don't know if the morning line was available, do you have the odds in front of you? What is Coalinga Road in this race? Do you know?
I do know. 20-1.
Woo! I like it even more now. Yeah. This is the way I print my past performance. If people say you never saw a morning line, I've done the entire Keeneland meet and haven't seen a morning line on one horse. I print the past performances the day they come out. So because I'm always working ahead, or it gives me the opportunity to work ahead. And the way my crazy life is, if I have an extra hour laying around in my life, I'll probably grab them and go sit on the patio and put a little work into a race here and there. So I want everything as soon as it's available. The morning line odds don't come out until like the next day or a day after that. So a lot of times I don't even go back and write the morning line on my pages. So yeah, I'll take it. Coalinga Road 20-1. Let's do it. You got 12. I got 20. Let's box them up in here and knock these two out.
Yeah, and Clovis Connection only finished a half length in front of Coalinga Road in that very hot race, the Productive Sensational Star. So I'm going to use Coalinga Road. Why wouldn't I use the best speed, maybe the best closer? Yeah, they're both double digits on the line. I mean, and who do you have to beat? You've got to beat Bolitnikov, who may or may not be as good as he used to be. Right. Astronomer, who's 4-1.
You just made. I think Bolitnikov was a ballet person or something like that, and you just made him Bolitnikov. For the Raiders.
Right, exactly. Well, it's Northern California.
Yeah, that's right. It should be Bolitnikov.
Oakland, right?
Yeah, right.
Basically. But Astronomer hasn't been out since the Breeders'. I'm sorry, Seabiscuit. He's always been a horse that's most effective on the lead. I don't think he's going to be in front of Clovis Connection. He might be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. From a trainer, by the way, who I always thought was a good trainer, Simon Callahan. Yeah, who has not won a race all of this year.
That's amazing. Yeah,
22. So, I mean, I tend to use as a handicapping factor how the barn is doing, and the Callahan barn is not doing anything.
No, until proven otherwise, you got to be skeptical.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's a good gambling race because there are price chances that have legitimate chances. That's all I like. No.
That's what we're looking for. Let's go to Santa Anita now for 2 stakes races on Saturday. Kona Gold and Royal Heroines. The second time this week, Kona Gold is in the news. The stakes race named for him, of course. And Hall of Fame announcement earlier this week, Kona Gold did not get the nod. I know a lot of folks, turf riders and fans out there have always been clamoring that they think Kona Gold, the great sprinter for Bruce Headley, should be in the Hall of Fame. It's a good case to make. His longevity and outstanding performances from coast to coast. I mean, he was as good when he shipped to Churchill for big races as he was on the West Coast. If you put Kona Gold in the Hall of Fame as a sprinter, you would get no argument from me. I don't have a say in the matter. I don't vote. But what your recollections of Kona Gold, Jeff? What a racehorse.
Top class sprinter. For me to argue one way or the other, I'd have to look at the resumes of some of the others who did get in.
Yeah, that's true.
And if I see some horses, I'm saying, well, if he got in, how the heck does Kona Gold not get in?
Right.
I haven't taken it to that level because I don't really have a rooting interest one way or the other, and I don't vote like you, so it doesn't really matter to me.
No, I don't vote either. No, they don't ask me to vote in a fan poll, much less.
Right. Exactly. So me too. So it's okay. I don't need them. I can make my own thing. In this day of the internet, if you want to be heard, you can be heard, right?
Right. So, you can make yourself the commissioner of racing on the internet.
You can do that too. Yeah, I'm the commissioner. But it's a good race. It's a non-graded race, and it's only for $100,000. But these horses could run for $500,000 anywhere else. And of course, we've got the Chosen Ron, who was supplemented to the race, by the way. I'm not sure why they didn't kind of figure out this race was coming up.
Yeah, you could have nominated him for a little cheaper. Yeah,
$100, whatever it costs. Oh, no, I don't think it matters. But boy, if you didn't think he was holding his form, take a look at this breeze. 46-3. Not only is he never asked to drop, but he's out in lane 9 or something here. So just to make sure that They didn't want him dropping over onto the rail because they probably thought that would induce him to take off, grab the bit, and blast.
Yeah.
But out here, he thinks he's galloping. And you know something? He is, Jeremy. How easy can you get going 46-3?
This is as cool a horse as it gets. 16 for 21 lifetime, 9 for 11 in Santa Anita. And he just looks like he wants to be out there, you know? I mean, just enjoying what he's doing there and working really well. This is the star of the West Coast sprint ranks. And, you know, until somebody else comes along or somebody comes from out of town for a Breeders' Cup, it's probably going to stay that way. You know, he ran admirable and even 5th in the Breeders' Cup against the world's best. I actually thought he had a shot to win that day. Maybe I overrated him in the open company. He ran about as fast as he's running some other races. You know, he's not running 110 buyers or anything crazy like a world-class sprinter when he gets the elite powers and horses like that. But this is what you want as a racing fan. You want horses like this on your circuit. I don't care if it's Coastal Mission or the horse at Charlestown who racks up so many victories in your local circuits. You want horses like this to get you out to the racetrack. This is a horse you want to come see. There was a horse that used to run at Charlestown way back in the early days when I was a kid named Onion Juice, and he won the very first West Virginia Breeders' Classic. But back then you had to look at the newspaper to find out if there were entries, right? There was no, internet. You didn't get a stable alert. I would literally get the newspaper every weekend and look for the entries to see if Onion Juice was entered the run. You wanted to go see him, and you knew it was going to be 4 to 5, and you weren't there to bet him, but you wanted to be there. And we talk about how do you get people on track. Horses like the Chosen Vron are the best marketing tool you have for trying to get people on track. Come out to see the really cool horses. It may not be the greatest betting race in the world, but this is open company here in the Kona Gold. You got horses like Forbidden Kingdom, open company graded stakes winner. It's not just a pushover field in here. You got Express Train, who's earned $1.4 million. I don't know about 6.5 furlongs for Express Train, but John Sheriff seems to be giving him one off the long layoff. So it's a very interesting group of horses.
Yeah, it is. And the Chosen Ron, I'll tell you some insight on him. He's the kind of horse that doesn't like to be pushed and shoved out of the gate. He'd rather just kind of fall out, get into his rhythm, and then from the 3/8 to the quarter pole, that's when he kind of devastates you. But at 6.5, I mean, at 6, you have to let him run out of there. Mm-hmm. At 6.5, you can kind of ease into it. And that's what the Chosen Ron really likes to do and wants to do. This race at 6.5. There's a reason why he's a perfect 4 for 4 at 6.5, because this is his best distance, I think. I mean, every distance is his best distance, but this is the kind of horse that can come out. The race Forbidden Kingdom's going to bust out there and go, and he's really good. But going 6.5, I don't think he's going to go out there and run 21-1, 21-2. Mm-hmm. So that'll allow the Chosen Run to cruise up and get him within his sights without having to be used. I thought Forbidden Kingdom's grass race was really good. But now we're back on the dirt and he's got the rail. So that makes it more difficult. I think the Chosen Ron will go out and do it. And I think he'll do what he always does and put on a show.
It's race 4 on the card, so it's earlier. The later stakes on the program, race number 9 on Saturday at Santa Anita, is the Grade 3 Royal Heroine, named for the filly, a Breeders' Cup champion. Mile on the turf here, as you might expect for Royal Heroine. And Jeff, we've got a field of 9 in this one. So good betting race in the 9th. Once upon a time, I thought Bella Bell might rise up and become one of the top filly mare turfers in Southern California. She's been productive since then, but she's not at an elite level. I don't know that she gets there, but these kind of races at Grade 3, 100 grander, these are the races where she should be pretty effective.
Yeah, I was going to pick her. I was disappointed in her last race. She was really flat. She's run some good races for sure. Numbers wise, she's a fit. I ended up with Miss Lizzie, and let me state this statement. I'm going to make a statement here. I'm picking Miss Lizzie. I don't even like her. I don't.
I've had races like that. Yeah.
I mean, I just ended up. It was like a wheel of fortune where it just came up Miss Lizzie. But, I mean, on paper she looks pretty good. She was second behind. A really sharp filly sprinting down the hill. I don't know that she's a late running sprinter. I didn't even think her last race was all that good anyway. I mean, it was okay. It was better on paper than it was on visual. Mm-hmm. She has finished first or second, 6 out of 9 at Santa Anita on the grass. So I know she likes it. She has won routing, but not against this group. There is pace in the race for sure. So there was enough. And at 6-1, I figured, well, I could do worse. So I ended up this Lizzie, but I don't trust her. If I'm playing a rolling exotic like a pick 3 or pick 4, pick 6, whatever it is, this race, I'm going to use Bella Bell because she could bounce back. I don't know anything about Uncorked, but it's a first time Phil D'Amato. Her form in New York wasn't winning, but it was solid, and she could close. So I can imagine. The one that I would probably take a stand against is Stay and Scam, which probably puts her in the winner's circle right there. I loved her last time. She had a series of downhill turf races. She'd shown some quality doing that. She was stretching out to a mile for the first time. It was a paceless race. We were going to hand her a controlling speed type of trip. I said to myself, if she can't beat this field under these conditions at a mile, then she can't run a mile. Well, they made an easy lead, and they just ran over in the last 16th of a mile. And it was a good filly, but not a great filly. And now she's back again, second time, which I don't think will be the first time. Plus, she's facing other speed. So that's the one I'm against, if anything else. And again, I said nothing would surprise me, and then she probably wouldn't surprise me. So Miss Leslie tentatively on top, Bella Bell, Uncorked. Those would be my preferred 3, but anything goes as far as I'm concerned. I just don't have a handle on the race.
Miss Lizzie, ridden by Hector Barrios, could be one of the biggest days of his career because he's on the big horse earlier in the card, the Chosen Bronze. So 2 major stakes wins on the card, maybe for Hector Barrios. We'll see. It'll be a big night for him, if so. Okay, so that wraps up our 8 stakes races on Saturday and also the Friday stakes race that we took a look at for Keeneland, which was the Bewitched Stakes. First post at Keeneland today at 1 o'clock. Santa Anita's got live racing kicking off their weekend today. You can get Jeff's full card analysis at expressbet.com and at news.first.com. Be sure to check that out each and every race day. He gives you what you need to know for Santa Anita and also his Prime Plays video. So check out Jeff's analysis for Santa Anita all weekend. Tournament players, reminder, we've got feeder tournaments today, Friday, for Keeneland and Santa Anita events later on in the season. The Keeneland event gets you into the Kentucky Derby Challenge, I believe, coming up next week. So check out all the details at expressbet.com/tournaments. And again, Saturday, the big tourney is the $500 Santa Anita Challenge. Okay, we've got a draw between now and Tuesday when Jeff and I reconvene for It's Official. They're going to draw the Kentucky Derby and the Oaks on Saturday night. We'll know a lot more about that. We want to invite all of you to check out the first Kentucky Derby wager guide. That will be out later on Friday. Might be out as this podcast is rolling. By the time the podcast is over, you should be live and be able to check out that wager guide. We've got analysis from handicappers all across the first family of racetracks, stats, trends from past races, all the workout videos from around the country, XBTV, Churchill Downs, Keeneland, all the big works that have been recorded in a really easy place for you to check all the information out. Start your Kentucky Derby handicapping with us, and then certainly bet it with First Bet and Express Bet come a week from Friday and Saturday for the Oaks and the Derby. But again, that first Kentucky Derby wager guide should be out here today on Friday. Jeff, looking forward to that and so much more.
Yeah, I mean, we've got it all here. We'll be having the guide. We'll be on our show on Tuesday, looking back at the works with a final analysis, and then a lot of content throughout the week from Jeremy and me. And we'll really dive in, not just picking winners, but trying to give the proper reason. That's just as important as getting lucky and stabbing on a winner. We want to. There's got to be a rhyme to the reason, and I think we'll have it for you next week, and every day we'll have something for you. So just remember to tune in.
No stakes races tomorrow at Gulfstream Park, but want to remind you before we go, mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six on Saturday at Gulfstream. They're expecting to pull in the $3 million range there. I think about $300,000 in carryover going into today's card. So if the pick six does not get hit in the rainbow style on Friday, Saturday could be about a $3 million pot. Again, mandatory payout Saturday tomorrow in the pick six at Gulfstream Park. Jeff and I will be back on Tuesday on It's Official. A lot of stuff to come over the next few days to sort through, and we'll talk about that and put it in 5 topics and line them up for you when we reconvene. Have a great day, everybody. Close out Keeneland with a few winners, and we'll talk to you Tuesday.